stage. All right, good evening. Welcome everybody. Thanks to Kent, rest of the STEAM group for fighting me out tonight. So I'm going to talk tonight about connecting history and a project I've been working on. So a little bit about me, it'll help kind of tell you the journey, how I got here. So I'm a proud product of UW's awesome public education system. Undergraduate degree in something horrible and awful called Applied Mathematics, Engineering, and Physics from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. A master's degree in nuclear engineering and engineering physics. I, at one point, realized that the world was going to see a lot more websites going up than nuclear power plants, so I switched fields. I joined Kimberly-Clark as an IT person. I helped write a system that processed $13 billion worth of US consumer goods a year. Left there, became a consultant. I'm currently a consultant at Skyline Technologies. Part of the cool thing about being a consultant is I talk to a lot of companies, so work with everybody from professional sports teams that I can't name to global companies headquartered in Switzerland, so that I've actually gone to Stan, Switzerland for work, and it's pretty awesome. So all that to say, Kent may not have been super honest when he said everybody is cool, because I'm really a nerd, right? So that nerdness, right, is infused a lot of how I kind of think about things and the way I approach, but I'm also a history nerd. So all my nerd friends are getting excited for the next 2 books in the Game of Thrones series, or the Name of the Wind series by Wisconsin author Patrick Rothfuss to get done. I, on the other hand, am really excited for Robert Caro to finish his Lyndon Baines Johnson biography series he's been writing since the late 1970s. So this is a massively long undertaking. The Red Book, where he talks about being Master of the Senate, is probably the best introduction to how the US Senate works and our fractured race relations in the middle 1950s, 60s, and kind of the path and journey there. So if anybody's looking for a light read, 700 pages, pick it up. Good way to kind of get to sleep at night. It's part of being a history nerd, right? I read a lot of books, I do some things, I watch some documentaries, look at pictures, and this is one of my favorite pictures. So so in April 1865, Abraham Lincoln gets assassinated in Washington, D.C. If you think about April in Washington, right, it's spring is coming, things are getting warm. The nation goes in mourning right at the end of the Civil War. And so they take the body, put it on a train, travels around the country. Walt Whitman writes, when lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed, or something like that. And this is a picture of the train visiting and Lincoln's casket going to New York City. And the thing I like about this is up in the window right there in that picture is a young Teddy Roosevelt, who goes on to become future president of the United States, and his brother Elliot, who goes on to get a recreational alcohol problem where he jumps out of a window at the age of 35. But his has a young daughter, Eleanor Roosevelt, who I think is one of the kind of really cool women in US history. So, it's these moments and these connections that we have as people, I think, is really important. And I also think it really infuses history and how we think about this. So, another picture, this is a young Bill Clinton in the early 60s meeting JFK at Badger Boys State. So as a Badger Boys State alum, I like this, and I think it's kind of cool, but it just drives home this idea that relationships matter, not only as people and interactions we have with one another, but historically, right? So maybe young Teddy Roosevelt is inspired by seeing Abraham Lincoln's procession and thinks that this is something I should do with and serve my country. A chance for Bill Clinton to meet the President of the United States maybe makes him think about taking that step. So we infuse this kind of relationships matter, my crazy nerd brain, the fact that I go on runs every now and then and I come up with these crazy ideas. And I come up with this idea of Cosmo. So Cosmo, the name comes from, last year my wife and I were on a vacation in Italy with some friends. We went to Florence, so Cosmo Medici is responsible for the kind kind of essentially the Renaissance happening in Italy and this great explosion of art and beauty that really kind of infused Europe at the time. And so the name comes from that, but the idea is really to take a platform and allow people to record the interactions between people, events that happen in their life, the dates these events happen, and the places where they all happen. And so this network of connections, you can really think of it as a social network, similar to how we have a Facebook or a Twitter, becomes a history network. And another way I kind of think of this is Wikipedia with verbs. So when you think like this and you bring all these things together, it looks a little bit like this. So I'm going to do a little click in here, a little click in there. And what I have created here is a web application. And this is all very much a work in process, and I don't do a great job explaining this with words, so pictures are a lot better. And this is recording interactions between people and events. So it might be a little hard for you to see in the room here, but things that are red are people, and things that are white are events. And you can look and see there are some folks where things cluster a lot. So if I scroll in here, I'm going to look and find an event, right? And this is Ulysses S. Grant, or Adolf Hitler, right? So Adolf Hitler is going to be somewhat infamous character in history, so a lot of things associated with him. We can scroll in, take another look. And it's always hard to do this in a demo because it pops around a lot, but I can click on Samuel Huntington. It's going to go out. It's going to find information about him. And then each person, right, we're going to get an idea of these are the events associated with them. I can go back, take another look. And this is kind of the first imagery that we're going and doing. And we're really creating a visualization network for capturing these interactions and these looks in these fields. So I'll just scroll in on another one. Zoom in. Here is Hitler again. Keep clicking on that. All right. Well, but we click on Hitler. It's going to load. Right. We're going to go and grab some imagery from. Well, it's not loading right now, but we go out and grab some data. It's going to go and grab a Wikipedia image. We're going to go and find people that are associated with Hitler. Right. So we get an idea of these are the interactions that he had. Take a look at different folks. We can go, these are all the events associated with Hitler, when he became leader, yada, yada, yada. And you get an idea now, here are, based on time and events, things that happened. So you get an idea of, right, these are people that were important in history. It's hard to kind of show some of the things that the visualization sees, but you can kind of trace the British monarchy as events happen and coronations happen. And that's kind of the first visualization. We have a lot more going that are underway. That's the first one I can talk about. But I think the important thing, because we have limited time here, is why would anybody do this? And my thinking along this really is two things. So there's this emerging concept in the tech world, in the world of humanities, is digital humanities. We have a lot of content from documents and things that have been written. It could be Gibbon's, the history or fall of the Roman Empire, or source documents, using things like artificial intelligence to bring that in and find new meanings and understandings. And this is another way to kind of bring those technical skills as a tool to researchers in the field of history. So imagine what happens if I have all these events recorded with places and times and dates and when they happened. So you can get an idea, okay, who are the people that were in Gettysburg during the Gettysburg Address? If you're a person doing research about that and Abraham Lincoln. One of those visualizations I'm working on, I call my Strava visualization. So you can look at, watch Lewis and Clark as they journey to the West and have them move across the map with dates and times. Another thing you can do is like, who are the people that were there when Caesar was assassinated at the Ides of March, right? So all these different things allow you as a researcher to go and find more information. Next thing that I really think about, right, is how this helps students. So, similar to talk we had earlier, right, about bringing technology skills to, folks in terms of creating websites. I talk a lot with high school students, and I talked a lot about at the beginning about my background. So one, first obviously to humble brag, but second is to say, as a STEM person, right? We spend too much time thinking about STEM in education and it being important. And I think it's valuable to, when I talk to students, I say, I'm a prime example. You're listening to me speak, right? Nobody's ever going to tell you speak too well. Nobody's ever going to tell you write too well. This is a great time for you to take creative writing, do public speaking, read some Shakespeare, right? You're never going to do that once you get to college. So spend some time doing that. And I think STEM becomes a barrier because people where all these jobs are in terms of technology and the IT field and opportunity, things like, hey, I'm not really great at math, it doesn't freak me out, or freaks me out a little, I'm not interested in that. And the reality is in the IT field, we need people that can create beauty, right? Nobody's gonna go and look at that website and think it's awesome, right? People aren't gonna download ugly looking apps. We need people that communicate and write content. So it's bringing those skills and technologies to students in the history arena, I think is really an important way to allow them to have skills that can transfer into a different field. If 5, 10 years later, they're like the vast majority of the people I know in my life who are doing nothing they went to college with. So instead of having students come to technology as a field, we bring technology to students and learners where they are and give them the tools to be successful. And the analogy I like to use is finance. So back in the day, columns of numbers, they were written in pieces of paper and debits and credits with Ebenezer Scrooge, right? And then Excel comes out and finance people start thinking about spreadsheets as a tool. And then data becomes more prevalent and it gets stored in databases. And now the finance people I talk to are leading data warehouse initiatives and organizations. They're writing reports. They're doing queries. And it's really changed how finance thinks about the world, and they have skills that are transferable to other fields. I'd like to see that happen to the humanities too. So there's a lot going on there, a lot of nerd things, a lot of different things. Quick time, I just want to get the idea out there. But really, what I'm trying to work on is creating a platform to record people, places, events, times, and how we can use that to understand more in history and bring digital skills into more prevalent humanities where they wouldn't normally get it. So, my name's John, and I will take questions now. Yes?
Hey John, I was just wondering, how did you piece them all within the circle when it comes to different variations of times and connections and all of it? Like, where, are they just in there, or are they?
They're just in there. So I didn't do anything other than go out and grab the data and see what the data tells me. So one of the sources I'm using for this is Wikipedia's popular events in the day. And I said, okay, here's an event. Find the person associated with it, look at what the data is, where it happened, throw it into here, and all these visualizations become realized, right? So it's kind of hard to see, but there's lines connecting up, there are all these things. And it really becomes, like I can get lost in Wikipedia, and this is kind of like getting lost in Wikipedia on crack. So there's a lot of interesting things that can happen. And, this 10 minutes doesn't do me a lot of good talking about this, but history.page, right? You can take a look, log on, and get your own feel on stuff, and feel free to reach out. So, yes?
Are you looking to then take this to like an app where you can go, like for students, I know a lot of places in California, they have, schools are able to download the app and then they're able to like show kids on how to do that, where it mixes in better than a web page, because I know sometimes web pages don't load as well as applications can.
I'm right now I'm trying to seed the ideas into the world at large. So the app stuff I'm a little bit, it's kind of on the back burner until I get kind of all the visualizations I want done so I can go and present the story a little bit better than what I have now. So it's all kind of a work in process. That'll be a little bit further down the road, but yeah, it's kind of on the road now.
How do you plan to do the search function, or if you already have one?
I have a stubbed out one that isn't quite working yet, but yeah, I have a search function. I'm just wiring up my back-end piece to tie into all the people I have out there. Right now I just kind of have a couple folks hard-coded in there, but that definitely is coming. The other thing I'm working on is putting more tags in there in terms of if you're interested in US senators, maybe we'll just have a US senators view, or presidents, or you're interested in the British monarchy. So presenting kind of different slices of data that could be applicable to your field. Yes?
One more question.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Have you considered doing a time variable to it? With the beauty of the sort of universe-like cosmos, that's almost a play on words there, of having all of these things pop into existence like stars, almost.
I have, but the problem I have is I do this like at 5 o'clock in the morning for an hour or two, and I like to hang out with my wife and kids every now and then. So, but yeah, there's definitely that timeline visualization. So one of the ones, so when I talk about that Strava visualization, it's really, let's take location, and which is geospatial, and then time, and then play that on a map, right? So, you know, there's a lot going on here, but the idea I have is ingestion methods, right? We have ways of ingesting things. And one of the examples I talk about, right, ingestion method for Twitter. So you can then take Twitter data, bring it in, and then a lot of that can be geotagged. So now you know date, time, who's tweeting it, right? And so now you can follow it. I don't want to, you know, let's say the President of the United States, you can follow where all his tweets are coming from and follow those in time and space on a map, right? Assuming that was a person. So there are a lot of kind of cool things that happen there, but yeah, we're very much at the beginning. I do a bad job of explaining it without having the picture there, so really wanted to get that picture up to help the explaining part.
Thank you very much, John.